Welcome to CWC Art and Soul with Catherine. I am Catherine Whalen-Costin, also known as Clarity Whisperer. I am the host and producer of the shows, a series of deep exploration into higher visions, better ways to live on planet Earth, new insights that may help us move beyond the old ways and into new, more harmonious systems that empower all, not just some. What if it isn't a choice between black or white? What if we can choose from a color palette far beyond what has been explored before? What if? So many possibilities. If this kind of exploration intrigues you, please grab yourself a chair, put your feet up, as long as you aren't operating machinery, of course, and join us to mine for gems of wisdom. No medical advice is offered on any podcast on this channel. If you require medical assistance, please contact your healthcare practitioner. You can find previous podcasts on the website CWCArtandSoul.com or on Apple Podcasts or on the YouTube channel. The guest list and future shows are also listed on the website. Now let's get exploring and have some fun. And welcome to today's show. I have a special guest for you, Josephine Hanan. She's the founder and CEO of Promote Her Business International. It's a global networking group, and she has a great slogan, Ain't Your Grandfather's Networking Group. And it's all about women empowering women in a different way than we've ever learned before. Throughout history, women have adopted a lot of the very masculine ways of doing business, and Josephine has come up with some better ways, and she explains that to us, what her whole business philosophy is about, how she got there. We discuss some of the things that are going on the planet right now, especially challenging to women, and how empowering women really does help the planet. So if this is something that intrigues you, stay tuned, because we really got into it. And grab yourself a cup of tea and hit pause while you do it and come back. And because I think you're going to enjoy this. She's got a lot of energy and a lot of great wisdom to share. Josephine Hanan. I am super excited to be chatting with Josephine Hanan, who likes to be called Jose. And so I'll call you Jose if that's what you prefer.
Perfect.
Okay. So you have had an interesting career, an interesting exploration. You are the founder or one of the founders of Promote Her Business.
I am the founder, the cook, the cleaner, the bottle washer. I am everything there is. I often tell my husband that I wear so many hats. I feel like I should also start a hat shop. But
there's an idea, but you don't have time to put the rims on the brims.
But that's exactly right.
That's perfect. When I was looking at your bio and some of the work, and I've gotten to know you through Promote Her Business, your online Facebook group, and it's so interesting you're so full of energy and so vibrant and so passionate about women in business. And I was thinking, like, March 8th was yesterday, which is perfect for us to be having this conversation today. International Women's Day, celebrated every year. But not, this has only been in recent years. Years ago, women were very often not given any credit at all for their contributions to the world. They sometimes weren't even allowed to use their own name. If they did create something, write something, invent something, own something, it was in their husband's or father's name, because they didn't have that right. I mean, we weren't even considered persons until the early 1900s in most countries. So we didn't have the vote because we weren't persons. So it was a matter of, coming to that place where recognize that the female human body is a person. Isn't that ludicrous? That would even have been a concept, that we weren't considered valuable enough, smart enough to make decisions on our own lives. I was thinking about how so many women that we don't even know about, like the women we were ever taught about when I was in school in history, were women who did something for the country, like save the day during a war, or, Joan of Arc, or people like extreme examples of heroic work. But the day-to-day women we didn't hear about. And there were a lot of heroes, a lot of women. I was just thinking in Canada, we just recently honored a woman, Viola Desmond, who was a Black woman who lived in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. And in the early 1946, she was a business owner, a successful business owner. And she wanted to go to the theater, and she wanted to sit in the section that the whites only section. And not because she wanted to sit, not because she wanted to break the rule, but because it was the better section. And she was a well-established, very well-to-do woman. And she thought, why wouldn't I be allowed to sit there? So she went and sat there. And she was removed, of course. And then there was a lawsuit, and she was charged and all kinds of things. And it brought about some awareness that she was a pioneer. But she didn't do it for the country. She didn't do it for the status. She did it because it was the right thing to do. And so many women do throughout our history. Now, we just honored her. We just put her name and her picture on our $10 bill, which is a first, a big deal, because previous to that, it was mostly men, except for the Queen, and mostly male politicians, really, that had, their picture on. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, when you were growing up, when you looked at women who were celebrated or successful, or people that really inspired you, what name comes to mind for you?
Well, the first name that comes to my mind is one of the first words I ever said, which is mama. So my mom is still alive and kicking today. She was my biggest role model growing up. She was also my Girl Scout leader. She taught me girls can do anything, and she led by example. My mom was also in market research, and she was a Mary Kay beauty consultant for, I don't know, way over a decade. And so I was just learning, vicariously what it took to run a business and to market yourself and to make close connections with other women entrepreneurs. And I didn't even know I was doing it. It's like sometimes you're in the school of entrepreneurship and it doesn't look like a classroom. What it looks like is life. It looks like, learning from your role models. And I think that's to your point about, many women being anonymous, is that I think they're doing phenomenal work in clear sight. It's not that the work isn't being done. It's not that there's not innovations. It's just we're so used to seeing it. We're so privileged to have it that we just kind of expect it. And I believe that entitlement didn't start, just with the generation of millennials. I think it's been with us forever. And, and part of that entitlement is just expecting the world to work and work for us, and not acknowledging all the wonderful things often that is done by women, by people of color, by, on the backs of people who aren't getting acknowledged or even really paid for their efforts.
Yeah, it's that compensation, if we really value it, because we certainly have a lot of people doing what we call menial tasks, but they're the tasks that are critical to a healthy society. And, we tend to have these things that we bought into that aren't true. Like when you look at it, do you really think that a guy who's making his billions, sitting at a desk all day and giving a Joe Blow a call on the stock market and, buy these stocks, sell these stocks and all that, is that working, that work that he's doing or not doing compared to someone who is digging ditches, cooking food in a restaurant, scrubbing floors, the janitor in the school, the teacher, where have we thrown everything out of balance by suggesting that certain careers or professions and done by certain people have more value than those done same jobs or different jobs? Where did we get these ideas from? Like you say, it probably has been something we've inherited. We don't really think about it. It's been eons because we have lived under a patriarchy for as long as any of us could possibly remember, and probably even if we remember previous lifetimes, it's probably still was under a patriarchy because that is the way it's been on this planet, right? So it's interesting that you're right. We celebrate sort of now we're celebrating women that in the past we just figured, well, she just does it, like mama. She just does it. That's mama. It's, we don't think about it that way, but where are we when we don't have mama, right? If she's the one who's holding it together. And sometimes that role is played by a man. But for the most part, it has been women who've been carrying the weight of family life, the weight of responsibility. And we're often told, I remember in my mother's generation, you could have a job, not a career so much, but you could have a job as long as it didn't interfere with your household duties. And that included keeping daddy happy and the children happy and food on the table and all those kinds of things. So it was like a privilege for a woman had to ask permission to have a job. And I remember in my mother's day, so in the 1950s, as soon as a woman became pregnant, that was the end of her job. That was it. There wasn't it was everybody celebrated. Oh, that's why you didn't tell you were pregnant until you absolutely had to, because you were going to be terminated. And how far they let you work while you were pregnant, most people didn't want to see pregnant women in the workforce. So it was very ceremoniously, you're out of here. But the thing about it is, I was thinking that for the husbands in these families, if they needed those incomes to survive, it would have been considered a real, it would be shame on the husband if he couldn't provide enough from his single job for that family. So if your wife was working, it would be shame on the husband. And that's how we kept everybody in line. That's how this patriarchal system kept everybody in line, with shame and blame and all that kind of stuff. So, that's just historical chat. But when I'm looking at you today, this vibrant go-getter going, now your mom being in Mary Kay would have given you a sense of a woman definitely can run her own business, and she can definitely manage that whole aspect of being an entrepreneur. And Mary Kay did a lot for women in that way, to give them that a system, franchise, something that they were familiar with, that they could get into. But what about women who want to get into a business that has been traditionally a male business? How do you see that as any different than the Mary Kay type of businesses?
Well, what I think is that, You have to go where your passion is. And sometimes you have to experience more barriers to get where you want to go. The more male dominated the industry is, often the harder it is to be respected, to be taken seriously, to make the same amount of money for the same type of service. We often hear in the corporate world a lot of, when we talk about women's issues, which are really human issues.
Yeah, by the way.
We hear about like the glass ceiling in corporate, but I think what the world isn't talking about is the glass ceiling that we as women entrepreneurs put on ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like when women say, should I raise my prices? My answer is always yes. Like in general, we offer more and get paid less and work twice as hard for half as much, whether we're in corporate or not. And sometimes we're carrying that male paradigm that, Catherine, you did such an awesome job setting the context for with us where we go. And I think something we don't realize as women entrepreneurs is that when you make that shift from whatever your previous job was, and a lot of people back into entrepreneurship, they don't start there. Now it's a little bit different for, the younger generations nowadays, but at least for my age group and above, we backed into entrepreneurship. It wasn't option A or B, it was like option Z. And yeah. So with that in mind, you are taking everything, the whole paradigm of everywhere you used to work into your own business. And I think it's really time to sit down and, kind of do a relook, a refresh of what's possible for what you can create in your business as a woman entrepreneur. And that doesn't matter if you're a small business or a solopreneur. You have an opportunity to be a role model for the world of what works in the workplace and what works in business, and even be a role model to corporate on how it's done in terms of family policy, in terms of managing your own hours, in terms of creating an empowering environment, and in terms of paying yourself what you deserve and standing by it. Yeah. So that's what I think. I think, yes, it's harder to be in a male-dominated industry on top of being a woman who many of us have came into the game later on. And with that said, I think if we want it, we can do it, but we need to be intentional. And we also need to be intentional about who we are for the world. The world is looking to us for what is possible in the workplace, and we are building this from scratch, which is so cool. So we can create anything. And my question to any women listening is, what do you want to create? What does the ideal workforce look like for you? And how much do you want to get paid? Pay yourself that amount.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And you don't hear that from men. It's almost like we're still, even as far as women have grown and come in status and, bank managers. And I worked in the bank when one of my first jobs when I got out of high school, and all of the bank managers were men. And then every so often there would be a woman bank manager, and it was like, wow. Now she couldn't get a lot higher up than that, but that was quite a bit higher than what we were seeing. Because a lot of us, women, there was a lot of women working in the bank, but when they wanted a supervisor or they wanted somebody with some status, an assistant bank manager, they would hire a guy right out of university with a degree in all kinds of things that had nothing to do with banking, just any kind of degree at all. And they would come in, and a lot of the women that worked there had been working there for years, or, I was quite a bit younger then, but there were women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, experienced, knew the ropes on all different aspects of banking. And this young pup, we used to call him sometimes, would come in, and they were a little cocky because, they got their suit on and they're ready for their first day of work, and they knew nothing, zero, and they were the supervisor. So the women had to train this young man to supervise them. And it was, and the women, I mean, you couldn't get a raise, you couldn't get a promotion, and there was nowhere to go because they weren't promoting from within. They were bringing in men from university, educated people. So it brought more status. And I looked at that and I thought, like, that's the most absurd thing ever. That why would you not promote these really experienced women who knew the ropes? And, it was just so absurd. So today, when I'm thinking about it, as you said, a lot of today's entrepreneurs backed into it because it was like they lost their job, they lost whatever they had, their vision, or they lost their passion, or they lost their drive in some career that they chose out of high school that they were told they had to be. This is your role when you're growing up. Oh, you look like you'd be a good lawyer. You look like you would be a good baker or a hairdresser, or whatever was told to you. And a lot of people followed those, or followed their parents into a career that was similar. But then all of a sudden, it's like it's sucking the life out of them. And so then they start to actually look at their passion and realize they have something to contribute to the world that isn't already done. It's not following in somebody else's footsteps. It is actually paving a new road, paving a new path, a more flexible path. And so that, I think, is what I get from you, meaning backing into being an entrepreneur. Yes. And so, but when you were a little girl, and you saw your mom doing that, did you think, did you have any other avenues that you thought you were going to explore, or did you automatically think you were going to business college, or business was where you wanted to be?
It's a really good question. I was a little brat, actually, about it. When I was younger, sometimes we not only don't recognize the wonderful work that's being done and role models for us, but we even resent it. And I was one of those little brats that resented it. So I was always seeing my mom out there. She's talking to women nonstop. She's commenting on their face and their beauty. Like, why is she always doing that? It's so embarrassing. Like,
that's hilarious.
I told that to my mom. I mean, this like really snarky remark to my mom that like totally hurt her feelings, right beyond her feelings. And I said to her, I said, Ma, I said, you know what? I never want to do what you're doing. I mean, you're always out there and you're always commenting, and I don't want to have to work that hard. I just want people to come to me. I'm going to get a degree. And then what's going to happen is people will just flock to me, just like a magnet. And I will do no work whatsoever. I'll just show them my shiny degree, and it will be so easy. And, my mom just kind of, her heart broke a little, but she also kind of smiled, just thought it was interesting. I had to, see it for myself in quote unquote, the real world. Right. And so then I did, and I got my advertising degree, and I got my master's degree, and I went into the corporate world, blah, blah, blah. And what I realized was, it wasn't for me. Like, it just wasn't for me. And so when I went back to my mom and I said, you know what, I got this idea about starting an organization that promotes the heck out of women entrepreneurs and markets them and, helps them build really strong win-win relationships with each other. My mom said to me, do you know that would involve actually talking to women like constantly? And did you know that they're probably just not going to find you overnight? Like, you're going to actually have to like promote her business and like be a role model of promoting, which means like talking and not just people coming to you, eventually coming to you, but not initially, right? Nobody starts with the audience of Oprah. Nobody starts with the audience of Oprah. It's like you have to build your way up, which means, you have to be out there. You have to be constantly talking. And nowadays I laugh with my mom. I probably talk to as many women, if not more women, than my mom even did when she was so embarrassing.
Exactly. And, you know, if you have children, they probably will say something similar at some point. It's kind of it's a thing. I mean, that is a part of life. Becoming a teenager, as you're in a teenage years, you're starting to become an adult. The first thing, I think, as a human species, we reject our parents because we have to break free to be independent. We're meant to do that, and we mostly do it. And sometimes we do it in a little harsh, you know, like, because it's like, I'm never going to be like you. And then if you do have children, what happens is the first time your child does something that you know, unexpected, and you're in one of those crazy moments, you start talking and you hear the voice that's coming out, and it is your parent. And you think you will catch yourself going, I am my mother. I am my father. The people I said I would not be. So it's just kind of, and it's an interesting stage of human life that as we do that. But very often we don't have the models. We don't have anyone to, like, you were fortunate to have a mom in that kind of position to give you that example, that you could actually see that she was a successful businesswoman, you know, meeting other women, and even maybe you didn't understand, especially to do with makeup and so on. So that sort of does still make it feel like it's just for women. It's not a real business. It's, you know, and yet look at all the Mary Kay reps that have been so successful, and in, you know, or things like, you know, selling Tupperware. I sold Tupperware for a while. I sold Chantel clothing line. I was pregnant. It wasn't very successful because for me, because I was really big, and I'm trying to sell these clothes that were not for maternity. They were fashionable clothes. And I'm hauling these racks with me with all these clothes, and there's just no way I couldn't wear them or try them on or anything else. And that's a kind of a thing. If you're going to sell something, you got to believe in it, right? Yeah, I just think that the idea, having role models, I didn't have when I was growing up, because I'm older than you are for sure, but I didn't see the women in business model in people I knew and or taught in schools. In fact, I was thinking about this the other night. When the first time I heard Gloria Steinem's name, it was said in a very derogatory way, and I knew that the older women that were in my world had no love for her rocking their boat. And you know, for a lot of women, and that's how it is today too, is that when you've been indoctrinated so heavily into the idea that you need permission from your husband, father, as a woman to whatever you want to do in your life, you need their permission. And she was saying you can do it on your own, and you can actually make your own way. You are an independent human with your own mind, and you have more power than you know. I think that for some women who are already so invested, I mean, I hate to say it, but some women married for status. Now they have the status. They might have had money, and they might not have had a happiest marriage, but they paid the price. And I could see where they would reject that because they'd already put their money down on this lifestyle and invested their time and whatever it was, whether they were a trophy wife or whether they were just married so that they had the status in society, who they were married to. That's how it was. And I never understood that. I was thinking, why did women fight against women's voting or women's having equal pay or any of those things? And I remember hearing, well, if they pay women the same as they pay men, they won't be able to pay men as much. There was all kinds of rationale in this. And it was like, and so therefore, well, like you're saying that men are the only ones that need a job, a career. Women have to find a husband, which set us up for terrible situations. And that's why a lot of abuse that started, abuse we see today, some of what we're seeing today is the cycle continuing of women in families where their mother was beaten, was submissive, was oppressed, and that's all they know. And whether it's the new son or daughter in those kinds of situations. It repeats this kind of abuse. It repeats, repeats, repeats. And it isn't until women are fully empowered and understand that they have a right to be on the planet. They have a right to eat. They have a right to exist, to follow their dreams. They have something to contribute to the greater society without any man's permission, without anyone's permission. They're just, as my belief, we're designed here to come here to explore. All of us have divinity inside of us. So it doesn't matter how you express, whether you're sexually attracted to the opposite sex or somebody else, or however it doesn't matter. It's your body. This is just a bodysuit. And that bodysuit requires, just like the birds, we need food, water, shelter, whatever. So the idea that we would keep enforcing the idea of that some of us are less worthy than others is absurd. And I think the younger generation is fully has pulled that one. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not buying that. But in previous generations, it was that way. And a lot of young people today, even though they may not agree with that, they may find themselves in those same situations, especially if they do not empower themselves, educate themselves, choose their path, choose their career, and being a woman in business is one of those options. And that can mean so many things. I mean, my business is, so many things. I mean, my art, and I paint and I sell my art, and I do my podcasts, and now I'm selling my fashions that have my art on them. And so those are all businesses. But, my husband had a business for years and he was a welder. It's totally different, but they're both businesses. And my business is just as worthwhile as his was to him. But that's not the message. Like, I didn't get that message when I was growing up. I got the message that a household has to have a head of the household, and the head of the household is the man. Period. Mm-hmm. And so he deserves more food, the best food. He deserves more respect. His voice matters more. That was what we were taught. So when we're looking at today in 2022, and I'm looking at you, and you inspire me like crazy because you are, you don't have those hang-ups about women in business. And so tell us about your desire to, I know you have the Facebook group, but before the Facebook group, or did that start right away? How did you navigate getting into this, what you're in now, Promote Her Business?
Yeah, so for me, everything goes back to Girl Scouts. Me and my sister were always the top sellers of Girl Scout cookies for our troop. We sold over 1,000 boxes every single year. It was like cookie land at our household. Thank you. Thank you, Mom, for being our sales role model. And, and I love Girl Scouts. I love getting out there. I love going on camping trips. And I love knowing, not just believing, but knowing in my heart of hearts that women can do anything. And I knew that as a fact when you're in Girl Scouts. And so I just loved this empowering context that I stepped into. But the question was, for me, I love the empowerment of it, but where do you go from there? Like, can you make Girl Scouts into a business? Like, how does that work? And, the other part of it is I loved the empowerment, but going door to door, I grew up in Chicago, in the Chicago cold, freezing my little butt off with my badges on, and knocking on doors. It wasn't always easy. And people would pretend they weren't home and shut off their lights when you got up to the door, or when you were going to drop off their cookies and they didn't have enough money to pay for them. They just pretend like they weren't home, doubly cold, by the way. And, and so I started thinking to myself, like, I love promoting what I believe in, but there has to be a way to work smarter, not harder, promoting what we love. And was the question I've had my whole life. I believe that if we each have a question that inspires us, that we can take our lives and ourselves to the highest places. And my question in life is, how do we work smarter, not harder, promoting what we believe in? And as I got older as an adult, I saw women who had their own businesses, and they had the best, most creative, innovative products and services on the planet, but they had really small marketing budgets. And I kept asking myself, why doesn't the world know about these, these great products and services? Why does the world only know about men that started their businesses in their garages? Why aren't we talking about, why can't most people name 10 women entrepreneurs that they're buying from? And so I said, we need to work smarter, not harder, promoting what we believe in, and not just promoting, somebody else's business for the paycheck, although there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, just imagine actually promoting something you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and really having that live on as your legacy in the world and as a role model to other women that you can do your passion and be profitable. And so that was really the backbone of Promote Her Business, which is constantly asking ourselves, how can we work smarter, not harder, promoting what we believe in? And in the marketing world, things are constantly changing and moving and shifting, right? And keeping up with, should I promote myself on this social media platform? Should I do a podcast? Should I do a book? Should I do a video series? Should I be on the speaking circuit? Can I just get leads organically? Should I do SEO, right? Like, there's so many options. And even within those options, things are constantly shifting. So basically what I saw is that there were groups for women to promote themselves. And then there were organizations that taught women how to promote themselves. But I had never seen an organization that actually gave women opportunities to promote themselves and taught them how to promote themselves, so they were even better at promoting themselves. Mm-hmm. As they were really leveraging the promotion opportunities. And so that's what Promote Her Business is all about. It's about networking her way. It's about promoting yourself more, speaking more, getting out there, especially if you have a small marketing budget, and doing it smarter, not harder, by locking arms with other inspiring, purpose-driven women entrepreneurs, and really encouraging and inspiring the world to think of women first and buy from women first, so that we can all rise up together.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you have these groups of, people to connect people. And you really make a good point about, like Henry Ford, he started in a garage, right? He started tinkering and inventing and whatever. And the thing is, where do women go to have those people invest in them? Into, I want to build, if when men have had ideas, they could go to the bank manager, who is usually a man, and say, hey, often they knew them because they were in the men's clubs, men's places that they socialized, and where women weren't allowed, and, back years ago. And I still remember the hotels in the small town that I grew up in, and it said ladies and gents on the one side, or ladies and escorts, and the other side was for men only. And so a woman could go in as long as she had a male escort. So, I mean, it's just, I grew up in a different era for sure. But I'm just thinking that how that's how men did business. But women, you could have a really great idea, but I remember many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, there was a small shop of this and that kind of store with antiques and all kinds of novelty stuff. And it was for sale. And I had an idea about that could be really something, creating it into something else. So I went to the bank to, look at that. And it was like, I would have had to have my husband come and co-sign and blah, 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 blah. If he would have wanted to go and do something like that, he wouldn't have needed my signature at all, Yeah. And so I mean, that was 20 years ago. That's not that long ago. And I'm thinking how important it could be for, there isn't one that I know of, but it's possible there are places where a woman with a really great idea, really great, that needs some cash investment to get started, because the saying is, it takes money to make money, and that's true. I mean, not always, but generally you need some seed money. You need some money to buy tools, or to buy technology, or to buy something that you need to make it happen. Like me doing a podcast costs money. Doesn't happen without, I wouldn't have a microphone, a computer, whatever, all the tools that you need, the internet. Mm-hmm. So, but we don't seem to have that we have promoting businesses and we have that kind of stuff. But is there such a thing? I mean, I don't mean to, throw a curveball here, but I really think that's something that we need. That women need to be able to have successful women who are already in their multi-millionaire status, really could do something with that to help women who are just starting.
Yeah. And, I think your network is your net worth. It's about building relationship capital. To me, relationship capital is even more important than traditional financial capital, because you can get the money once and then you spend it on the microphone and game over. But you know what? If you have relationship capital, if you have women and people who respect you, then those people will continue to follow you, join your team, buy from you, no matter what business you're in, right? It's building that personal brand. It's building that personal capital with other people. And especially, I'm sure Catherine, as a serial entrepreneur, you're in art, you're doing podcasts, you're doing fashion. The more you do, the more you need an even bigger, stronger network, right, of people out there who are rooting for your success and can make those connections every time you have your next idea, right? So just getting money once isn't enough.
No.
So what I really think is it's about making those connections earlier too. That's why I encourage anyone listening, if you have a business and you're like, I'm in it to win it, baby. I don't know how, maybe I don't have all the answers. I don't know anybody, even if they've been in business for 2 decades, that has all the answers. No one has all the answers. But the time to make the connection is always now. It's most beneficial for you to start building that network. Come to Network Her Way events. Meet other women who care, who want to prioritize women's business first, buy from women first, refer women first, introduce women first. Get those women in your contact database. So then when you're launching whatever you're doing, or launching your next best thing, you don't have to build those connections. You already have them. And women are more likely to want to refer you and do business with you when they don't think you need something, versus when you're like, I'm really desperate and I need 20 people to come to my next event. It just feels like pressure. It doesn't feel like fun. It doesn't feel like they're coming as a friend. So you want to build those relationships not under pressure or under, I need seed money tomorrow. Build the relationships now, and never underestimate the people you meet at networking events. That's the biggest mistake I see women make. Just because you can't leverage them today doesn't mean that they won't make the best connection tomorrow. I'll tell you this much, Catherine, the biggest stages that I've ever got on were from women who actually weren't clients of mine. And it was because I kept those relationships. I kept them in my personal contact database. I reached out to them and said, hey, happy birthday, happy business anniversary. I kept those relationships nurtured. And then when I was like, hey, I have a big ask, they were there for me and they already knew my name and they already liked me. So what I would say is, if you're serious about really getting your business known, really look at not just financial capital here today, gone tomorrow, but look at relationship capital and building that strong network, and in our Promote Her Business community, we have 5 virtual Network Her Way events that you can come to every month around your schedule. So, definitely check those out. So how it works is you can participate in our Promote Her Business Facebook global community by asking to join our Promote Her Business Facebook group. It is a approved group, a private group, because we don't want just anyone in there spamming our members. Nobody wants that, right?
Right.
So yes, so you can join the group. You can start sharing value any day of the week. You can celebrate other women. You can give inspiration any day of the week. And on Thursdays, we have Promote Your Business Thursdays, where you could just say, buy my water bottle, and you don't have to provide any value. But every other day of the week, it's all about giving value and also raising brand awareness about what you're doing. In terms of our events, our membership is, we have a $1 30-day trial so that you can try out our 5 virtual Network Her Way events. And after that, it's just $27 a month. And there's no extra charge to join a circle, which is your own dream team of referral partners. So we really have, to my knowledge, after doing the competitive analysis, we have one of the most, if not the most affordable membership on the market today for women entrepreneurs who, not so much, we're not an incubator, we're an accelerator. So if you've already jumped in and you bought your microphone and you want to get known as a business brand, and maybe you don't have all the money, there yet, but you still want to get known and start building that relationship capital, then I highly recommend to try out our Network Her Way events, join our 30-day trial membership for just $1. The best way to experience our Promote Her Business community is by experiencing it. Get out there, meet our global sisters, and have them start getting to know not just your business, but you as a business brand. Going back to like Oprah. I love Oprah. And, she could sell an eraser, and she could sell a pickle. I don't care what it is. I would buy it. Why? Because it's Oprah. I love Oprah. Yeah. And so that's what's so important as women and women entrepreneurs, is to get out there and support yourself to empower yourself to become a brand that people love, you as a personal brand, even beyond whatever business you're in.
Yeah. And I think it's really important what you mentioned, because I know a lot of women have a hard time promoting themselves. And you just had an event recently, which was to promote a friend, which made it easier. Yes. because that is the coolest thing, because one, yes, they will promote you, but also I think that you also made the point about 10 people coming to your event out of pity. I mean, good God, how many times have we done that to each other where, oh, I'm having a Tupperware party, everybody has to come, like your family, your friends, your neighbors, whatever, chances are everybody needed something. I mean, it was at that time, you couldn't buy any kind of containers like that, like they have today in the store. You can buy a Ziploc container, that didn't exist. So Tupperware was the thing. So that was the thing. But every time, one person had a party, then another person had to have a party, and you kept doing that. And it was great for socializing, but it did become kind of a burden to people who weren't in that market. And it's also the same thing as I could buy Tupperware from, and this is just an example. I mean, I sold Tupperware too for a while. You can have a successful person selling Tupperware who's got a great connections with people, who's really built their name. People know how they feel when they're around that person. It's fun to have them in your house doing a party and all that jazz. You can have somebody else selling the same product and say, yeah, no, because you don't like their approach, their energy, the way they're putting it out there. And that is what happens when you like if you just go on Facebook and you're just saying, I'm selling this, please buy it from me because you're my friends on Facebook, and we get these messages, even though you're saying something similar, but you're saying it in a different way, the sense of buy local, buy from women, buy from women, and, support local, businesses and that kind of thing. And that is it's a great slogan. It's a great whatever, but it isn't until you have a relationship with the person that you can, and it can be just as simple, like a relationship that, hi, how are you? Happy birthday. And because there's a connection of how I feel, and Maya Angelou used to say this, it's how you make people feel, how they feel, not you make them feel, but how you feel when you're around somebody. That's the difference. People never forget that. If you feel good in their presence, if you felt noticed and heard and acknowledged and that you're important, that person is going to be more than likely interested in buying a product from you, even if they can get that same product somewhere else. And that's the key about what you're talking about is this networking group. It's about relationships, because I had the opportunity to be at one of those meetings and where people are talking and sharing their inspiration and their energy and their positive messaging, and it gives me hope for this world. It's because that's what we need to do. We need to elevate women to the place, and it's not, I kind of get turned off when people say you have to vote for this person because they're a woman. I don't vote for my candidate politically because of their gender. I don't vote against them because of their gender either. I vote for the best person. And I think this is even though we're still climbing those steps, I would love to get to the point where that's how it is in business as well. Right now, we're not there. And that's why it's so important that we do support women, because we've got to get up to, we've got to be in the same room as what has been before us, which has been a male-dominated corporate and all the way down structure. So I think that's what you're talking about. And you said it very well, the sense of camaraderie and promoting each other. And I love this. Now, this is not like I'm in Alberta, Canada, and you're where?
I'm in California.
California. But you got people all over the world, am I right?
Yeah, so it is a global sisterhood of women entrepreneurs everywhere, primarily women who are small businesses and solopreneurs. I think being a woman entrepreneur is one of the most awesome things you can do in your life. And it's also one of the most lonely things you could ever do in your life, because it's not like you're going to a workplace where you're hired into a team. You're the one creating your team. And something women entrepreneurs often forget, that even if you're a solopreneur, your team doesn't just have to be you. Like, you can also lock arms with other women entrepreneurs to have them be your promotion partners and vice versa, because you can go farther together getting the word out there than you can alone. And what's so cool is, if you don't have the marketing budget right now to hire your own salesperson or your, multiple assistants to be marketing you, this is where your referral team comes in as well, right? So that's what I would say is it's so important for women to, also keep in mind that, coming from a corporate world, oftentimes we're waiting, like you said, we're waiting to be validated. We're waiting to be promoted. And the mindset in our Promote Her Business community is don't wait. Don't wait to be promoted. If you have something awesome, promote yourself. Shout it from the rooftops, online, offline, and all the time, right? In a tactful, loving way, in a way that's built on relationship capital. And with that said, get yourself out there. And the reason we need to think of women first and buy from women first is because, one, we're not saying to buy more than you usually buy. What we're saying is simply to redirect money that maybe you haven't been consciously thinking about what you're investing in into the dreams of women, into the sustainability of women's legacy, into the sustainability of women's leadership, into women being able to make that transition to being the head of their household and being able to financially, have the means to do this, is where you're redirecting your dollars. And women have never underestimated how much power you have as a consumer. Research shows that women make over 85% of all consumer purchasing decisions. Ladies, you're spending the money anyway, but are you spending it on things that are going to make a real difference in the world? Things that, 3 generations from now, you're going to be so proud that you supported? Or are you just spending on what you normally spend and whatever you see first on Amazon and whoever has the biggest marketing budget to, put up a billboard or advertise on TV, right? So the reason that you want to join our Promote Her Business community is to even know who's out there, because there's so many women. They have the best products, services, and ideas, but you won't even have the opportunity to know about them because they don't always have the marketing budget to get in front of you. And many of us are turning off our ads. I know they're annoying, but they're also the way that women who have very small marketing budgets are trying to get out there. And so the whole idea is just to be able to have top of mind more choices as women and to redirect your dollars to things you want to see sustain itself in the world.
Well, I think you raise a really important point that I really hope my listeners and people talk about it, open the conversation about it, because when women are empowered, when women have the money is one of the most controlling factors in our society. Women stay in abusive relationships when they don't have the money to get out to and know they can take care of their children, their family. They will stay for that security. It's false security, and their lives could even be in danger. Sometimes it happens. And they know they should leave because of that being unstable and unfair. But that financial security gives them a certain certainty of food and shelter and so forth. It may not be safe, but they don't know what's on the other side of that. And if we can break these cycles, which we can, the more empowered women there are, the more that kind of leadership is shown, more examples to the little girl that's seeing, maybe she sees her mother and father in that situation, and she says, not for me. And she is able to look around and see a woman who is successful, is able to feed her family, is able to, handle that situation. That inspires her. And I'm not saying you can't have happily married people and having a woman that's empowered. But actually, I would say that if you're going to be a lot happier if the woman is empowered, when she is empowered, when she is seen as equal in value in what she's paid in her work and what she does, that the same kind of respect is given to either gender. And it's not more on, one side or the other. That will change the world. That is how we break these cycles. And it's not it's not just like you say, it's not about just giving this woman money, because for one thing, if that woman had money, it would probably be taken from her. If the person who's controlling her is using money to deny her a life, then she's definitely not going to have it if you hand it to her. It doesn't matter. But if you give her the tools to empower herself, and we teach our young people how to, some of the older generation is not going to change that ideology. Although I will say, when my first marriage lasted 5 years, and when I ended up on my own with my 2 little kids,
and I was working full time, and I had 2 kids to raise, and I was head of my own household. I was on my own for, I don't know, a month or two, and I get a knock on my door, and it's one of my husband's relatives, a woman, and she says, "By God, I've been married for, I forget how long she was married, 25 years or something, and I put up with that crap long enough. And when I saw you out there with 2 little babies, by God," I said, "I'm going to do it too." And she left her husband, and he had been abusive, and so it was inspiring. So even though I say, a lot of the older generation's not going to change, sometimes they do. Sometimes they will make that change. But we inspire each other. I inspired her, but she inspired me in many ways too. And so that's what we're doing by elevating the concept of women networking, women in business, entrepreneurs, connecting. And it's not, I just love the way that you put that. Like you don't go to a networking to beg other women to buy your product. You got to love your product. Talk about your product, talk about yourself, talk about your passions, and talk about their products. Let them know that you are interested in what they've got as well as what you're selling. That's networking, right?
It is. And, the thing that's different about Promote Her Business is that we ain't your grandfather's networking group. And what I mean by that.
I love that. I love that slogan. For sure, I love it.
And some of the reason why women haven't been as successful in other networking groups or other business environments is because they're using a format that isn't most conducive to women really shining. The whole, what do you do? What do you do? That doesn't always work for us as women to best promote ourselves, and really stiff and uptight and serious and always having to be the person that has to prove themselves 10 times more if you're not wearing a suit and tie, and having to take 10 times longer to get referrals in these groups is very frustrating. And so in our Promote Her Business community, something that's very innovative is our formats, because we're not doing the same formats that groups were doing since the 70s and have just repeated over and over. What do you do? Do your 20-second pitch, blah, 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 right? Like, that's not what we're doing. We're giving you new opportunities to experiment with what makes you shine the most. I have been studying what the best ways for women to promote themselves for way over a decade. And the formats are crafted so that you get to change up how you're promoting yourself at all the different events. So you see what works best for you as a business brand, as a personal brand, and for whatever you want to promote this month. So we do virtual speed networking her way, where we do multiple rounds of networking, and we always are focused on one of the 12 secrets to promote her business. So you're learning a secret to best promote yourself. Then you're actually applying the secret at the event itself so that you can promote yourself better and feel into what works best for you, right? Just copying somebody else and how it's traditionally been done in these boys clubs and networking groups doesn't usually work for a lot of women, especially if you have more of a feminine approach, right? To networking. And so that's the whole idea here. We're doing events, kind of, Catherine, like you mentioned, we're doing one of a kind innovative formats like Promote a Friend, like Declaration Rally, like Global Networking Circle, like Win-Win One-on-Ones. Like at Promote Her Business, we believe there's no point in doing a one-on-one. We don't even do one-on-ones at Promote Her Business because to us, women are so busy, right? We don't have time to do a one-on-one unless it's a win-win situation. If I'm just going to go buy your Tupperware and you're not doing anything for me, that's not what we're creating here. We're creating win-win relationships to really help each other shine and, also get peer feedback. The thing that I love with women, something we really have going for us, is our ability to multitask. I know women are often slammed for multitasking. You must focus. You must not, Catherine, you must not do more than one business, right? Like, hello, it doesn't.
Oops, it happens.
I know it's so hard, when you're a super talented artist and creative and fashion extraordinaire and podcaster. I mean, you must focus on one thing. That's silly.
It is. And you know what else? It sucks the creativity out of you, because if you when I was working on my book, for instance, so I intensely, so it took me about 10 years off and on to write, edit. I just released a memoir in January. Yeah. And I'm going to be releasing the paperback soon too. This is March, so I'm not sure if it'll be the end of March or when it'll be done. But anyway, it's a memoir about the insights I got from the traumas I'd been through, the experiences that I had with the early premature death of my father and my brother and then my son, and all the different things that happen when trauma is not handled properly or well, or as well as I think could be. So, but anyway, the process, took me, like I said, I wrote it, I purged, I used it for healing, I used it for whatever. But if I just stayed in that focus, I actually would not have healed nearly as much, because you got to go through your process, set it aside, let it go. And then I, started painting. So I paint, every so often. Then I work on that. I work on my website. Then I can't stand and paint 24/7. So, but the creativity comes to me to paint from my writing. It comes to me from my paintings to do my fashions. It comes to me and it comes from interacting with people, like hearing what people love, what they don't, what's inspiring them. I get my inspiration. So if my focus was just on selling, that isn't my focus at all, actually. I'm offering them for sale, my products, but I don't look at it as I have to sell this many things. What I want to do is impact this many people, influence, inspire this many people. That's my passion. It is, of course, you want to get well compensated for your efforts and for your contributions. But if I just think that the idea, maybe certain people cannot multitask. And if they can't, and if you need to do that, do it. But don't discourage people who are multitaskers I realize I can't paint and write at the same time. I can't multitask in that way. But I can certainly, my mind has different compartments. And that's what happens. I'm painting and I get an idea, a thought about something I'm writing or something I'm fashioning or something. Or maybe I'm thinking about, I got to go clean the toilets, because that's another part of life, right? Is when you are a solopreneur. You've got to do all your things. And we women are good at that because we've had to. We've managed households, we've managed children, we've managed historically, we've managed the family schedule. So it's a natural thing to have this kind of connection. I'm just really, really grateful that you have stepped into this journey and inspiring so many women all across the world. And I wonder if there is something, we've been kind of all over the place on this, which makes sense because we're women and we multitask. But, but if there's one message that you really want to get across to our listeners, what would it be?
My message to women entrepreneurs listening is to explore what it means for you you to do business her way in 2022. That would be my message to you, and to give yourself permission to not have to do it a certain way, not have to get butts in seats, but use your own language. Like Catherine was saying, that wasn't empowering for her. It's not empowering for me. It's not about just, selling it, sell it, sell it, sell it, talk to them till they buy or die. I don't like that kind of stuff, right? Like the languaging that we use is so important as women, because it's what motivates us. It's what attracts certain people to us and other people away from us, and rightfully so. And so experiment with what it means for you to do business your way, her way. Find yourself as a signature brand. Find yourself as a personal brand. Look into doing business her way by meeting more women entrepreneurs who are purpose-driven, who are hitting it out of the parks. Come to our Network Her Way events and experience multitasking at its finest. Because what we do during our Network Her Way events is we are actually capable of doing more than just saying, what do you do? What do you do? We actually give you different inspiring prompts that have been proven to help women better promote their business just by asking them. We also give each other peer feedback. We also share ideas about how to grow our business. So we're able, by coming to one event, you're able to get multiple things from that. You're able to find referral partners. You're able to find potential clients. You're able to learn new ideas, new inspirations. As Catherine said, get out of your own way, get out of just focused on that one thing, and learn from what other women are doing and try it out and experiment, right? And take that into your networking this year. So my question for you is, what does it mean to do business her way? And that's kind of like my question of, how do you work smarter, not harder, promoting what you believe in? Right? It's not a one and done. It's not okay, Jose, I have the answer right now, check it off. No. This is an exploration to really take, not just this year, but throughout your lifetime as a woman entrepreneur, and keep asking yourself, what does it mean to do business her way, your way? And let's keep learning from each other, locking arms with other powerful women who can get us in powerful places, who we want to be in the energy of and learn from and peer mentor and help each other get on more stages. So that's what I would say. And if you're interested in our global Promote Her Business community, it's just promoteherbusiness.com.
I love that. I love it so much. And I do just want to just make a point here, because you said something that's super powerful to me, especially this podcast and my commitment to try to find better ways to live on the planet in this environment, and, in harmony, in a symbiotic relationship for humans on planet Earth. And you make a really good point of this, just that hard sell that a lot of men were taught, and then they taught it to women, and then women tried it their way and it didn't work, and it's just buy. And we are looking at, I want to buy sustainably. I want to buy responsibly. I want to buy in harmony with it. And we can talk about that because, as I say many times, women are still doing most of the birthing and the burying on this planet. And
Yes.
that is our connection to Mother Earth as the feminine, that we want a healthy environment for our children and our grandchildren, right? So that's part of that. We've got to look at, and I would say, even though you're saying, buy from women and put that in, I also would say that men who are in business ought to be looking at women for leaders, because that is where the future is, because we do know what is best for our children and our grandchildren. So don't just, think, well, this is my world. We're men, we're in business. This is how it's been. It is how it was. But it's changing, baby. It is changing fast. So look to women to be inspired, instead of women trying to follow that formula that men set forward that didn't work, has already shown us where it doesn't work. It creates too much competition, too much conflict, and in many cases it ends in war. We don't want that. We want something different. And I think you're very much onto that with your Promote Her Business her way. We need to get more men embracing that feminine way. That would be my advice. If I was giving it, which I am, in a sense. Thank you so much, Jose, for joining me for this incredible exploration and for being who you are. And I really want to honor you for just sharing this, because you are being somewhat vulnerable to come on and talk about your own personal journey as well as what you're offering to the planet. So I'm really grateful for you and for your time today and for sharing with all my listeners.
Oh, and thank you. And I'm looking forward to reading your memoir and seeing your art pieces. And I was just curious, can you just tell us really quick, what is the name of your memoir?
Oh, it's Permission to Breathe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Permission to Breathe. And it is, and it is about that, mining the depths of grief and sorrow to find those gems beneath, because there's a lot in it. It's not all about suffering, that is for sure. There's a lot of gifts in the experiences that we go through in our lives. So thank you for asking. And people will know they can go to my website to purchase the ebook right now at CWCArtandSoul.com. And the paperback, as I said, I'm working on that right now, hard and fast, to try, because I know there are still a lot of people like me who love to hold a book in their hands. I love the smell of a book. I just love it. I love the way it feels. It's a cup of tea and a book, and you can just get lost and explore. And that's what I'm getting for feedback from people, is that a lot of them are finding it's opening them to their own journey of healing. And by looking at my life, because I've had so many different experiences in challenges of being a woman in this patriarchal society that's falling down. So, but thank you for asking. I appreciate it very much. And thank you for your interest. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, please check out the website, check out the YouTube channel, and like and subscribe so you never miss a podcast. My guest list is growing all the time. So you can go to the website and look for the guest list under the podcast, and you will see the topics and the guests as it's being populated, because I've just restarted this series. It used to be Let's Get Real Chatting with Catherine, and all of those are on the YouTube channel in the archives. This is a new series, a new energy for 2022. So thanks for listening. And until next time, take care. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for subscribing or following, liking, and sharing the podcast. It helps me grow this channel and hopefully reaches more people with an empowering message. It's always nice to know there is wisdom out there and you can tap into it. Visit the website for more information on how to be a guest, see the guest list and future shows and topics. And while you're there, I invite you to browse my acrylic art pieces on canvas and wood. They make an amazing home decor, high vibe art. And you'll also find a link to my storefront for luxurious women's fashions and home decor, created and designed by me with my art and manufactured in Montreal, Canada by Le Galeriste. And it is really amazing to have found them. They are environmentally conscious. They use a special dye that doesn't fade, and it's humanely manufactured. It is an awesome time to be on the planet and have these choices. So I invite you to explore and see if there is something there for you. Until next time, take care.